Part 185. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1846. Immortal Lord. 5 elements loose immortal. Lin Zhenghong was a little surprised when he first felt the aura of the array immortal, because he had never investigated the cave and had no idea that there were outsiders hiding in Purgatory Mountain. But when the array immortal got closer and saw the body of the 5 elements loose immortal, Lin Zhenghong suddenly grabbed the Chaos Emperor chain that he had not returned to Zuyun. "Brother Lin, don't worry." Zuyun shouted in a hurry, but saw Lin Zhenghong throwing the Chaos Emperor chain to the array immortal. The Emperor chain is a special immortal weapon. Even if Zuyun combined the 5 into one, it did not change the properties of the Emperor chain. Lin Zhenghong can control the Chaos Emperor chain. Instantly, the Emperor chain turned into a grey-white long snake and directly tied up the array immortal. Lin Zhenghong turned around and shouted at Zuyun, "Brother Zhu, why did you cooperate with the 5 elements immortal?" Thinking that Zuyun had asked him to help him go to the central immortal realm, Lin Zhenghong naturally thought that he would do so, and thus let the 5 elements immortal go. Zuyun smiled bitterly, "Brother Lin, he is not the 5 elements immortal." "Bullshit," Lin Zhenghong cursed, "I have the divine eyes technique, how could I be wrong?" After cursing, Xianxia was also furious, "Zuyun, he is not Lin Zhenghong, you have been deceived." "You." Zuyun stroked his forehead and was about to explain to the two of them, but he saw that the Chaos Emperor chain suddenly fell off naturally, and then Xianxia slammed towards Lin Zhenghong with a palm. Chaos Palm. The majestic chaos force immediately suppressed Lin Zhenghong, and even Zuyun was shocked. Zhengxian's chaos palm was more proficient than mine. Lin Zhenghong's face changed drastically. He had suppressed the 5 elements loose immortals with his own hands. How come the Chaos Emperor chain was useless to him now? In addition to being shocked, he reacted very quickly. He immediately took out the talisman pen and the heavenly talisman. The talisman pen drew a mountain character, and then used the heavenly talisman as a shield to block himself. Boom! The Chaos Palm power came, and immediately set off a turbulent flow of immortal power. Fortunately, Zuyun was also strong and well versed in the 5 elements, so this naturally could not hurt him. But he did not stop them. Instead, he deliberately let them fight, which could be regarded as understanding their current strength, which would be of great help to enter the central immortal realm in one fell swoop. At the same time, he also secretly used the Chaos Law to take back the Chaos Emperor chain. 5 elements loose immortal, I didn't expect you to be able to hide in the Purgatory Mountain and recover your strength. The Chaos Palm power was completely blocked by the heavenly talisman, and at the same time, the mountain character drawn by Lin Zhenghong's talisman pen turned sideways and smashed towards the array immortal. I'd like to learn from you guys heavenly talisman of Purgatory Mountain. The array immortal was unwilling to fall behind, so he punched him. Blue Dragon Fist. The shadow of the blue dragon suddenly appeared, and it surged out from the fist of the array immortal. Zuyun was very surprised, but then he thought, this is normal, the array immortal also understands the way of the 4 symbols, and it is easy for him to learn the blue dragon fist. You have a dragon, and I have one too. Seeing the blue dragon, Lin Zhenghong also picked up the pen and wrote the word dragon. Pointing out the last point, like the finishing touch, the word dragon quickly turned into a real dragon, and rushed towards the shadow of the blue dragon. Haha, this is the dragon of the 4 directions divine beast fist, it is the ancient blue dragon. The dragon you drew is just a real dragon. There is no comparison. The array immortal also sneered, watching the blue dragon and the real dragon collide with each other. Zuyun muttered, all of you dragons are fake dragons, I don't know what to fight for. The azure dragon and the true dragon instantly entangled together, consuming each other's immortal power. But the fight between the two has not stopped, but has become more and more intense. Lin Zhenghong may want to show Zuyun his strength under the Purgatory Mountain. It is very likely that the Array Immortal is because he has practiced the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra to improve his combat power to a level never before. Although he was originally an immortal king, he proved his way with the Array, and in terms of hard power, he was just average. Of course, if he was allowed to lay out the Array in advance, ordinary people would not be able to hurt him, and they would be considered very capable if they could leave safely. It can only be said that each has its own advantages and disadvantages. But obviously, the Array Immortal at this time, because the combat power of practicing the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra has been significantly improved, naturally want to use people to test it. Lin Zhenghong, the Immortal King, is the best. However, Lin Zhenghong now looks like Lin Fei, and he doesn't know Lin Fei, so he thinks that Zuyun may have been deceived. In the universe, although they had met, Zuyun did not mention it at this time, and neither side gave the other a chance to explain. Zuyun let it go, and even enjoyed the prejudice, so naturally the fight was extremely lively. At the same time, he also looked at the fighting style of the Formation Fairy, and also had a new understanding and comprehension. This is Zuyun's weakness. The time for cultivation is really too short. Whether it is the Formation Fairy or Lin Zhenghong, they often practice for tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. It is not comparable to Zuyun, who has not even lived for 1,000 years. The fight between the two sides became more and more intense, which forced Zuyun to leave Purgatory Mountain and retreat to the fairyland. Lin Zhenghong has Purgatory Mountain as his confidence, and the Formation Fairy seems to have his own trump card. The two fought evenly. Until they were a little exhausted, they suddenly reacted. "Where is Zuyun?" They stopped almost at the same time. They spread their immortal consciousness and sent out Zuyun, who was sitting cross-legged in the void of the immortal world, holding a wine gourd in one hand and looking at them with interest. This wine gourd was bought in a fairyland in the western immortal realm at that time. He never had the chance to finish it. "Zuyun, did you do this on purpose?" Xianxia narrowed his eyes. He was not stupid and found the problem. Even if he was deceived, shouldn't he stop it? But since he started, Zuyun didn't show any expression. Lin Zhenghong also scolded, "Brother Zhu, you are too righteous, right? Are you teasing me?" Zuyun laughed strangely, "Fight, keep fighting." He knew that the two could not fight anymore. Zhenxian and Lin Zhenghong calmed down and naturally would not be teased by him. "You said you are not a 5 Elements loose immortal, then who are you?" Lin Zhenghong turned his head and stared at Zhenxian. "Humph." Zhenxian raised his head slightly, and said without saying anything, "You said you are Lin Zhenghong, how can you prove it?" The two seemed to be angry teenagers, and they knew that whoever spoke first would be the weaker one. "Damn it, I am the master of this Purgatory Mountain, why do I need to prove it to you? Then I am not a 5 Elements loose immortal, why do I need to prove it to you?" Seeing that the two were angry and neither of them would give in, Zuyun stood up and flew back to Purgatory Mountain. "You guys." Sighing, Zuyun said, "He is not a 5 Elements loose immortal, he took the body of a 5 Elements loose immortal. He is Lin Zhenghong, and he also took someone else's body." When these words came out, both of them were stunned, and Lin Zhenghong also thought of it. Yes, if the other party is a 5 Elements loose immortal, how could he not recognize that I am using Lin Fei's body? "Then, who are you?" The two almost spoke in unison, staring at each other and asked. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1847. An hour later. The two of them stared at each other. No one expected this result. Because they knew each other, they fell into this misunderstanding. "But you are still amazing, Zhenxian. Not only did you get into the body of the 5 Elements loose immortal, you also learned the skills of the 5 Elements loose immortal." Lin Zhenghong smiled and said, if you pretend to be the five elements loose immortal in the future, that would be great. I'm afraid no one will be able to recognize it. Ha ha ha, it seems so, Xianxia laughed, and I have more formation skills than the five elements loose immortal. Let's see who won't be fooled. Unintentionally, this gave Zuyun a check, it seems. It is indeed possible to let Xianxian disguise himself as the five elements loose immortal. But for now, it is not useful for the time being, but if you encounter two immortal emperors, it may be feasible. I learned from Wan Potion that Xian Wuozong rescued two immortal emperors. It will definitely be useful at that time. Thinking of this, Zuyun said to the immortal, from now on, you are the five elements loose immortal. Huh. Zhenxian didn't expect that his joke with Lin Zhenghong was taken seriously by Zuyun, and he couldn't help asking, Zuyun, I don't know the five elements loose immortal, I'm afraid I can't pretend to be him. Don't worry, Zuyun said with a smile, the five elements loose immortal has been in the five major immortal realms all year round, in the Mayanbei immortal kingdom. Now, there are probably only two immortal emperors who recognize him. By the way, Zuyun looked at Lin Zhenghong again and said, the other two immortal emperors probably don't know that brother Lin used Lin Fei's body. Maybe you can plan it? If you meet two more immortal emperors at that time, maybe. As he said, the plan in Zuyun's mind became clearer and clearer. Xian Wuozong rescued the two immortal emperors, which made Zuyun suspicious of the other party. It didn't matter to him whether he looked for the source of the spring or not. What about the central immortal realm? Zhenxian asked immediately. He originally planned to follow Zuyun. The matter of the central fairy land is not urgent for the time being. Zuyun also immediately changed his original plan and said, I plan to go to the Dragon Clan's ancestral land first. Dragon Clan? What are you going there for? Lin Zhenghong asked curiously. Of course it's business, are you going to go sightseeing? Zuyun glanced at him and said, next, you can discuss the excuses together to avoid being exposed at that time. In addition, you can also take care of the northern fairyland. Xiaobei has fallen, and I'm afraid that the northern fairyland will also be in chaos. No, Lin Zhenghong said seriously, I control the Purgatory Mountain to lean towards the northern fairy emperor realm. If there is an evil fairy coming here, I will directly capture him and refine him. Okay. Zuyun clapped his hands and said, there is no time to lose, let's go to work separately now. Zuyun, take care. The two immortals bowed, and Zuyun also said goodbye to them. The ancestral land of the true dragon is in the southern fairyland. Although Zuyun is not sure of the exact location, he has a way to let the true dragon find him. As long as he arrives in the southern fairyland, he can take out some water from the dragon pond, and the true dragons will naturally find him. At that time, he will have someone take him to meet the Dragon King. As for his own safety, Zuyun is naturally not worried. As long as the dragon pond is still on his body, Zuyun is equivalent to holding the dragon clan's reverse scale. Do you want to find Zhu Feng? Zuyun touched his chin. In fact, it is best to take Zhu Feng with him. The demon refining tower also has a certain suppressive effect on the dragon clan. But after thinking about it, Zuyun gave up. Although Zhu Feng has achieved the great success of the three talents world, he is still only at the level of Deluo Jingxian. If he is in the ancestral land of the dragon clan, if the other party really makes trouble, he can escape into the Liulai fairyland, but Zuyun may not be able to enter the three talents world. Even if he enters, the dragon clan must know the specific location of the three talents world star, which may make the other party more murderous. Considering this, Zuyun gave up the idea of taking Zhu Feng with him. He didn't know that Zhu Feng had already entered the Chaos Star Sea to look for the devouring demon clan. There are three ways to go to the southern fairyland. The closest one is naturally through the central fairyland. But Qiu Linjian has returned to the central fairyland, and Zuyun is afraid of getting into trouble, so he can only take a detour. Should I go around the western fairyland or the eastern fairyland? Zuyun thought for a long time and decided to go around the western fairyland. First, this side is relatively close to the western fairyland. Secondly, he is not familiar with the eastern fairyland. Although the two fairy emperors are not in the fairyland now, Zuyun has no plans for the two fairylands, and just wants to be a passerby. But when he entered the central fairyland, he saw an extremely chaotic scene. Fighting, killing, looting. All kinds of things, like a riot in the mortal dynasty. Could it be because Ximen Yuanqing is missing? Zuyun was completely puzzled. Although there was chaos, he was outside the chaos. No immortal would take the initiative to cause trouble for Luo Tianxiang. Zuyun was still a spectator, like a passing visitor, and he did not stop these people from doing what they did. But when he approached the southern fairyland, he could no longer hold back the anger in his heart. He flew to the outside of a fairyland and reached out to kill the three Deluo Jinxians who were surrounding a female fairy. "Thank you for saving my life, Xianxia." The female fairy immediately knelt in the air and kept thanking Zuyun. "Get up," Zuyun said calmly, "I just did it for fun." After saying that, he turned around and left. "Sir, please stay." The female fairy saw Zuyun was about to leave without saying a word, and couldn't help but said in a hurry. "What?" Zuyun stopped and looked unhappy. He would not save people to the end. Being able to help was his greatest limit. There were more important things at the moment. To save a true immortal, would he have to support him in his cultivation all the way? "My lord, I am not asking you to help me anymore, but I am reminding you that the three people you just killed are the generals of this fairyland, and the master of this realm is in the direction you are going, so I want to remind you not to go this way, please take a detour." Zuyun's expression eased a little. He did not expect that the female fairy was just reminding him. He nodded slightly, and said, "Then you can help me lead the way, how to bypass the master of this fairyland." To be the master of a realm, he must be a Lucian fairy. Zuyun was not afraid of not being able to win, but afraid of trouble and delay. "Yes, my lord." After getting Zuyun's consent, the female fairy was also very excited. She thought she was going to endure the suffering of darkness, but she did not expect to meet such a lord. She raised her head excitedly, but exclaimed, "Zhu Xian." Zuyun was also very surprised. "Fairy Xianxia. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1848. Zhu Xian, it's me, it's me. You are so powerful now. After meeting Zuyun, Fairy Xianxia finally recognized Zuyun as her master and herself as her servant. But later, Huangming's scene changed dramatically, and Zuyun also let her ascend. "I didn't expect to meet him here." Fairy Xianxia felt mixed emotions. "I was in the tribulation period at that time. What realm was Zuyun in? But now, I finally ascended to the true immortal, but Zuyun killed 3 Deluo Jinxians with ease. It can be seen that Zuyun is at least a Lucian immortal." "Xianxia," Zuyun smiled, "no need to be so reserved, I didn't expect to meet you here. Since we are old friends, I will naturally not ignore you. It just so happens that I am going to the southern fairyland. Do you want to go with me? Don't dare to disobey." Fairy Xianxia has experienced a lot after all, and her mind is not bad, so she immediately agreed. She also knew that Zuyun not only wanted to take her with him, but also estimated that he would ask her for some information. But no matter what, since Zuyun took the initiative to ask, she would not refuse. In her current state, if she did not follow Zuyun, she would have no way to go. 3 golden immortals died in front of her, and reinforcements would arrive soon. She would be in a state worse than death. Let's go. Zuyun waved his hand lightly, and a stream of chaotic immortal power wrapped around Fairy Xianxia, took her to his side, and continued to move forward. Fairy Zhu, this road is blocked. Seeing that Zuyun was still heading in this direction, Fairy Xianxia could not help but remind him in a startled voice. It doesn't matter, Zuyun said calmly, you ascended to this fairyland? Seeing that you are not living a good life, I will help you to avenge your revenge, how about it? Fairy Xianxia said with disbelief, Fairy Zhu, I know you must be a Lucian immortal, but the master of this realm is definitely not easy to deal with. It is said that he is the confidant of the immortal emperor and his strength should not be underestimated. Ximen Qingyuan retreated when he saw me, so what is his confidant? Zuyun said calmly, and did not explain any more, and continued to move forward. Fairy Xianxia had no choice but to bite her silver teeth secretly. Anyway, staying here will die, so she might as well follow Zuyun. Maybe before she dies, she can see Zuyun's demeanor, which is not in vain in the fairyland. As for Zuyun's words, she did not believe them all. Although it is certain that Zuyun is indeed a Lucian immortal, Fairy Xianxia still does not believe it when it comes to the Western immortal emperor. At worst, I can help a little bit. Fairy Xianxia knew that she couldn't persuade Zuyun, but she thought that she would die anyway, so she made the worst plan. Wrapped in Zuyun's chaotic immortal power, Fairy Xianxia followed Zuyun closely, not only without any effort, but also slowly recovered her immortal power. After an incense stick, Zuyun suddenly turned around and asked, Xianxia, what law are you practicing? Ah! It's the Ziyuan law. Zuyun nodded and said, after you ascended, have you seen any fellow countrymen who came up from Huangmingxing together? The word fellow countrymen made Xianxia look nostalgic. Remembering that when he was on Huangmingxing, Zuyun pacified the spirit world with his own strength. But he never thought that Huangmingxing would collapse in the end. There are some fellow Taoists who came up together, but I don't know them well. Zuyun nodded and continued to move forward. Another stick of incense later, a mighty force of immortal power instantly swept past his side and locked onto Fairy Xianxia. The next moment, an extremely majestic voice sounded in the void. A little true immortal, dared to escape from our fairyland and killed 3 Deluo under this fairy seed. The voice was mighty, but no one was seen, and the chaotic immortal power around Fairy Xianxia also disappeared instantly, and the whole person was like being suppressed by a mountain, crouching down. Humph, hiding your head and showing your tail. Zuyun's face condensed, and he shouted coldly. This pressure disappeared without a trace in an instant. Fairy Xianxia recovered from being unable to move, and her expression must have changed dramatically. She did not meet the realm master, but because Zuyun so easily resolved the opponent's suppression. This immortal friend, is he going to be an enemy of my western fairyland? The voice sounded again, and instantly fell a few miles in front of Zuyun. The voice came from afar, full of energy. I am not a friend of the western fairyland, so how can I be an enemy? Zuyun said calmly, I will count to 3, and you will get out of here immediately. Otherwise, you will die. Arrogant, the master's expression changed. He had never seen such an arrogant and ignorant person. Previously, the reason why his pressure bypassed Zuyun was that he saw that he was also a Lucian immortal. Although he was unfamiliar, he gave him enough face. However, he never thought that Zuyun would not only protect the female immortal, but also ignore his western fairyland in his words. With a shout, the master's immortal power surged, carrying an inexplicable breath of law, as if to blast Zuyun apart between heaven and earth. Zhu Xian, be careful, the master is good at swallowing the law of heaven. Swallow the sky, Zuyun narrowed his eyes. He was surprised that the fairy world actually had laws similar to the whale swallowing demon clan's magic. Although he had never heard of it, he could know something about it. Through practicing the law of chaos, Zuyun also had a new understanding of the law. Swallowing the sky. I think it also belongs to the law of space. Otherwise, even if you swallow the sky, where will you be placed? With a scornful smile on his face, Zuyun casually drew a line in front of him. He did not use the law of time and space, because he still needed to hide his weakness. The law of space alone was enough. A dark crack suddenly appeared under Zuyun's chaotic fairy power, and the strange fairy light instantly poured into it. The failure of the Realm Master's fairy art made Zuyun suddenly remember that when he dealt with the crazy wand potion, he also used a similar fairy art, but it was controlled by the law of time and space. But in the end, the 10,000 sword energies appeared on the top of the Liuli fairyland and were controlled by wand potion again. In the end, he broke it open, which made wand potion sober. Will this Realm Master's fairy power also appear in the void outside the Liuli fairyland? He had guessed that there was also chaos outside the Liuli fairyland, but it was different from the chaos in the fairyland. But how did these two chaos survive here? Neither the fairy Xianxia nor the Realm Master thought that Zuyun would be able to resolve the attack so easily, and even less did they think that Zuyun would lose consciousness at this moment. Zhu Xian! Fairy Xianxia exclaimed, and the glow on her body suddenly burst out, forming a layer of immortal power barrier in front of Zuyun. Because she saw the other Realm Master, she also took this opportunity to use a more powerful immortal technique, vowing to engulf Zuyun here. The glow was dazzling, and Zuyun quickly came back to his senses. Xianxia! No need to seek death. Zuyun was slightly moved when he found that Fairy Xianxia actually protected him with her life. He turned his head and stretched out his finger to tap lightly. Time is still. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1849. The power of the law swirled from Zuyun's hand towards the Red Cloud Fairy. In the blink of an eye, the Red Cloud Fairy's figure was completely restrained. Around her, time stopped flowing, and she naturally could not continue any action. Not to mention the flow of immortal power, the operation of the law, even her thoughts were stagnant. And Zuyun's move even alarmed the opponent. The Realm Master of the Lucian Immortal. You actually mastered the laws of time and space at the same time. It was not until all his immortal power of the heaven-swallowing law flowed into the space crack drawn by Zuyun that he suddenly woke up and screamed. Is it strange? Zuyun chuckled and said, I gave you a chance, but you didn't leave, so don't blame me for being rude. After that, Zuyun pointed forward. Time and space flow. It's not time and space reversal, but time and space flow. The chaotic immortal power, with the light of the law, was like a tornado, and instantly wrapped up the Realm Master. Fairy friend, let's talk it over. The Realm Master was panicked and struggled hard, but Zuyun was in the same realm as him, how could he break free? In just a breath, the Realm Master, who was several miles away, was brought to Zuyun by the flow of time and space. Fairy friend, misunderstanding. The Realm Master was terrified and wanted to beg for mercy. But Zuyun did not give him a chance. Just because he was Ximan Yuanking's confidant, he was even more domineering in this fairyland and her ordinary immortals. Shaking his head, Zuyun slapped him with a palm. Chaos palm. The majestic immortal power and the palm of grey-white light pressed heavily on the Realm Master. Boom. The void shook, and the universe was ups and downs. This Realm Master was instantly slapped into nothingness, annihilated in front of Zuyun, leaving no trace except for a few heaven-devouring laws that flashed and then disappeared. In the chaos, Ximan Yuanqing suddenly froze, and an incredible look appeared on his face. What happened? Beside him, Dongfang Bai hurriedly asked. Something happened in the immortal realm, my first Realm Master is dead. Zimen Yuanqing looked at Xian Wuzong, who was leading the way in front, and whispered. The Lushan immortal called Heaven Devouring. Dongfang Bai had a good relationship with Zimen Yuanqing, and naturally had some understanding of his confidence. Yes, it was very sudden, he died. Zimen Yuanqing touched his arms, and a jade immortal talisman had turned into powder. This means that Heaven Devouring died without a complete body. Nangong Tianli is dead, and Bei Minjiun is staying in the northern immortal realm again. Who could it be? Has someone from the central immortal realm come out? Dongfang Bai couldn't help but guess. But in front, Xian Wuzong suddenly stopped, turned around and said with a smile, "It was Zuyun who did it." Zuyun. The two immortal emperors were both shocked. Xian Wuzong said lightly, "My Chaos Emperor chain is in the western immortal realm, so it could be him." And he had previously broken through to Lushan immortal in the chaos. With his ability and the laws he mastered, it is indeed easy for him to kill Lushan immortal, who only has the inferior law of swallowing heaven. Zuyun, killed my western immortal realm. He should not know that I am here, right? Zimen Yuanqing shrank his neck and felt an inexplicable fear of Zuyun. When he was a Deluo Jinxian, he suffered a great loss from him. Now that he has reached Lushan immortal, Zimen Yuanqing dared not think about it. According to his talent, this boy is very likely to break through to the realm of Immortal Lord in a short time. After all, he is practicing the law of chaos. I really don't know where this talented monster came from, practicing the highest law of the immortal realm. You know, Xian Wuzong didn't practice such a law. Maybe he's just passing by. Xian Wuzong's eyes flickered, and he said, "Since we last met him in the chaos, he has been to the chaos again, then went to Purgatory Mountain, and then went south from Purgatory Mountain and passed through the western fairyland." Xian Wuzong actually didn't know what Zuyun wanted to do. He could only sense Zuyun's position through the Chaos Emperor chain to determine his whereabouts. What Xian Wuzong couldn't understand the most was why Zuyun kept appearing in the chaos. Could it be that the Chaos Lotus gave him this teleportation magic? He didn't have the Chaos Lotus either, so he didn't know that the Chaos Lotus had unknown magical uses. If that's the case, then I'm relieved. Zimen Yuanqing breathed a sigh of relief, and seeing that Dongfang Bai had the same expression, he knew that the other party was afraid that Zuyun would also cause trouble in his eastern fairyland. Their immortal emperor power came from the fairyland. If the fairyland was damaged, their strength would be greatly reduced. Hearing that Zuyun was just passing by and was not targeting the fairyland, they naturally felt relieved. "Let's go, keep looking." Xian Wuzong turned and walked forward, and the two immortal emperors hurriedly followed. "Zhu Xian, what happened just now?" Fairy Xianxia was released from time standstill by Zuyun, and her self-destruction power was dispersed at the same time. She found that there was no one in front of her, and there was no trace of the heaven-swallowing realm master. She was as if in a dream, and didn't understand what happened. "Nothing," Zuyun chuckled, "let's go." Fairy Xianxia stabilized the immortal power in her body, and after catching up, she couldn't help asking, "Zhu Xian, where is the realm master? If we leave like this, will he find reinforcements?" For her, it was just a moment. "There won't be any reinforcements," Zuyun said impatiently, "just follow me." Finally sensing Zuyun's dissatisfaction, Fairy Xianxia quickly shut up, lowered her head slightly, and followed closely behind Zuyun, not knowing what she was thinking. But it is undeniable that she admired Zuyun a lot. Luo Tianshangxian. How long has he been in the fairyland? The western fairyland and the southern fairyland are also blocked. However, they are not as blocked as the central fairyland. After the two passed through, they felt a completely different aura. In the southern fairyland, because there is a passage to the demon realm and the demons in the Chaos Star Sea, the demon aura is naturally much stronger. At the same time, the evil immortals are rampant in this fairyland, and various auras are mixed in it, which makes Fairy Xianxia very uncomfortable. Zhu Xian, is this the southern fairyland? When coming here, Fairy Xianxia also carefully tested, and finally knew that Zhu Yun was coming here. At this time, she kept looking around. Compared with the chaotic western fairyland, she felt much more at ease at this moment. Well, this is more chaotic than the western fairyland. You should follow me carefully. Zhu Yun's reminder made Fairy Xianxia feel completely different. The western fairyland would be afraid of Zhu Yun's realm. But here, the demons and evil immortals from outside the domain would definitely attack the outside Lucian immortals. As soon as Zhu Yun's reminder fell, an evil spirit suddenly emerged, and instantly enveloped the two of them. Zhu Yun's face turned cold, and he stretched out his palm to slap. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1850. Zhu Xian, be careful. The aura of evil immortals is extremely strong, and when she was in Huangxingxing, Fairy Xianxia had experience fighting against evil cultivators. She knew that their strength could not be judged based on their realm alone, so she naturally reminded Zhu Yun aloud. But this time, she didn't take action, fearing that she would become a burden to Zhu Yun. At the same time, she took a few steps back and distanced herself. Quite sensible. Zhu Yun chuckled and reached out to point, space crack. Same. The evil energy that filled the sky was instantly sucked in by the suction force naturally generated by the cracks in the space. Principles of space? This guy is not very young, but he is quite capable. The evil immortal suddenly appeared, looking haggard and yellow, as if he had eaten something he shouldn't have eaten. I have more than one ability. Zhu Yun stretched out his finger again and nodded calmly. This evil immortal also has the immortal realm of Luo Tian, and for some reason he is guarding the border of the immortal realm. Is it possible that the southern fairyland will be unified? This is not a good thing for him. However, Zhu Yun had no intention of attacking the southern fairyland during his trip. Although there is no immortal emperor in this immortal realm, there must be some immortal lord realm masters among the heroes. And if the realm master is also an evil immortal, there's no telling what will happen. Zhu Yun just wants to go to the Dragon Clan's ancestral land to see the Dragon Clan's attitude, and then decide on the next specific plan. It's just the laws of space. Do you really think I will be controlled by you? The evil immortal also smiled contemptuously, showing a disdainful expression, and then disappeared from the spot. Zhu Yun's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect that this evil immortal could also understand the laws of space, and his attainments were even much better than those of ordinary immortals. The next moment, Zhu Yun suddenly took out the fairy mirror and blocked his back. Clang! A weird cone-shaped fairy weapon was stuck on the fairy mirror. Zhu Yun was about to slap it away with his backhand, but he never thought that the fairy weapon suddenly glowed with fairy light, bypassed the protection of the fairy mirror, and rushed towards Zhu Yun from all directions. These evil immortals are really weird, and their methods are hard to guard against. Zhu Yun muttered, but his reaction was extremely fast. With just one thought, the fairy power of chaos quickly surged out from the fairy mirror. At the same time, the laws of time and space were activated, and a chaotic space was formed with the fairy mirror as the center. It was like the mountain ceiling formation in Purgatory Mountain was separated from the fairy world at that time. Under this condition, not only could the evil immortal's evil magic be unable to harm Zhu Yun, but even he could not feel the existence of his own immortal weapon. It can be clearly seen that the immortal soul cannot be contacted no matter what. His expression changed, and he stretched out his hand to grab the immortal weapon. Zhu Yun reached out and grabbed his hand. Evil. Xianxia was anxious and confused, and his wrist was immediately grabbed by Zhu Yun. He quickly put his hand back and broke away, but he never thought that a grey light flashed between Zhu Yun's hands. The next moment, the grey light turned sharply up his wrist and directly tied him in place. Emperor, Emperor Chain. Fa felt that his entire body of immortal power was under control and could no longer control even a single strand of it. The Xianxian's expression suddenly changed. "Are you the Lord of Purgatory Mountain?" he exclaimed, but was met with Zhu Yun's sarcastic smile. "I'm not from Purgatory Mountain." "Then why do you have the Emperor chain?" As an evil immortal, how could he not know about Purgatory Mountain, the place they feared the most? "But isn't the Lord of Purgatory Mountain Lin Fei?" Lin Fei had already reached a consensus with their current evil immortal lord and sought cooperation. It was also the case that he recognized this as the Emperor chain. But now, the Emperor chain appears in this person's hands, and he categorically denies that he is from Purgatory Mountain. So, has Purgatory Mountain changed? Fellow immortal, if you have something to say, please tell me. The evil fairy quickly changed his attitude. How could he still care about his own fairy weapon? Although he is afraid of the Emperor chain. But he felt a little more at ease. The chains on Purgatory Mountain could tie people up, but they were also equivalent to protecting them. It's just that he can't understand that Zhu Yun used the Emperor chain to deal with himself, the immortal Luo Tian. If this kind of treatment can clear up the misunderstanding, it will be enough to brag about in the southern fairyland. I have nothing to say to you. Zhu Yun shook his head, took out his immortal soul hammer, and smashed it down. Immediately, the evil immortal spirit disappeared and the evil spirit dispersed. No. In his completely unwilling expression, the evil immortal fell, leaving only an immortal body. Zhu Yun thought for a moment and threw the immortal body into the space behind the immortal mirror. What he originally wanted was to absorb it into his body and throw it into the glazed immortal world. But he was afraid of scaring Fairy Xianxia, so he didn't do it. After using the fairy mirror, the fairy cone naturally returned to the fairy world. Zhu Yun smiled and said, "Look, can you use this fairy weapon?" Although it is an evil fairy weapon, from Zhu Yun's perspective, it can be regarded as a top-grade fairy weapon. If Fairy Xianxia can use it, it can also appropriately enhance her strength. "Thank you Zuxian, I can use it." Fairy Xianxia was overjoyed to see Zhu Yun kill immortal Luo Tian. After the evil immortal was bound by Zhu Yun's chain earlier, he lost the ability to fight back. I guess he also used this immortal weapon to deal with the Realm Master, right? That's awesome. Fairy Xianxia was full of admiration and took the all back. Using her immortal knowledge, she also dripped immortal blood on it, and the all was refined by her. "Let's go, there's still a long way to go." Zhu Yun smiled and continued forward. In the southern immortal emperor realm, an immortal lord also took out a jade immortal talisman. A strong man broke into the southern immortal realm. He was full of evil charm. If you look closely, he actually looks a bit like Nangong Tianli. "Young emperor, did people from other immortal realms attack because they knew you wanted to unify the southern immortal realm?" The one who spoke was also an evil immortal, but the look on his face was extremely respectful. "It's unlikely," the young emperor held his chin and said, "no one dares to trespass in the southern immortal realm. Even Purgatory Mountain dares not stay in the southern immortal realm, not to mention the other immortal realms. We are connected with the three realms of East, Middle, and West. The two immortal emperors of the East and West are missing, and the immortal realm has begun to be in chaos. And the central immortal realm is self-contained, and I think it is also an internal problem. Maybe some scattered immortals experienced this place and were stopped. Then should we send someone over?" the immortal lord said hurriedly. "Not for now," the young emperor narrowed his eyes, revealing a half-smile. "He is heading in this direction, I will just wait for him to come to my door." The immortal lord said loudly, "Young emperor is so powerful. He can actually know the direction of the murderer." The young emperor glanced at him, then retracted his gaze, muttering in his heart, "Because he used the immortal weapon refined by my father, there is a unique residual consciousness left on it, how can I not distinguish it?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1851. Nangong Tianli is extremely romantic. He was originally born as an extraterrestrial demon, and his instinct to reproduce was engraved in his bones. That is to say, he was afraid of Nujiao back then, so he didn't completely attack her. And this young emperor is his most outstanding heir. Zuyun didn't know this, let alone that a crisis was coming. At this time, he was taking Fairy Xianxia into the southern fairyland. He didn't know the specific location of the dragon clan's ancestral land, but he just headed south. After you feel it's almost done, take the water from the Hualong Pond to attract the real dragon. Chaotic Sea of Stars. Holy Demon Star, an isolated island in the Endless Sea. Mengwei stood in front of the stone statue of the Holy Demon Totem. In her hand, she continued to play with the magic knife. You are really useless. If it weren't for you, we, the Holy Demon tribe, might be able to live safely in the immortal realm, instead of being left gasping for breath and unable to get out of the immortal realm at this moment. Mengwei's frivolous tone was because the Holy Demon Totem had no way to deal with Mengwei. Originally, the inheritance of the Holy Demon clan came from it, so the totem stone statue could suppress all the Saint Demon clan members. However, Mengwei passed through Huangming Xing and his entourage. She relived her life in human form, and finally fused two slaves respectively, and then returned to the demonic body. Although, it's not much different from before. But the totem stone statue's suppression of her was completely ineffective. This is also the confidence that Mengwei can talk to the totem stone statue like this. Mengwei, you are trying to harm our holy demon clan. Although the voice of the totem stone statue was low, it was hysterical. You are the one who harmed us, the holy demon tribe. When we arrive in the immortal realm, we should conform to the immortal world's immortal way. Yes, but we still have to let us holy demon tribe follow the rules of the demon realm without any flexibility, so we will always be trapped in the sea of chaotic stars. Mengwei drank sweetly and turned to look at the countless holy and demon tribesmen behind the totem stone statue. At this moment, all these demons were kneeling on the ground. The person kneeling at the front is naturally Mengwei's current confidant, Muhamming. Have you all listened to her? After a long time, the totem stone statue turned its base and questioned the tribesmen who once believed in him. But no one responded. I have lived in the lower realm of the human race for hundreds of years, and I have learned a truth, which is to do as the Romans do. Even if you want to fight, you must have the strength to fight. Otherwise, everything will be a joke. When she said this, she couldn't help but think of Zuyun. Didn't he fight all the way up? After sighing slightly, Mengwei's body shook, and a ball of flame suddenly appeared on his body. Skyfire Dragon. There is no need for him to exist anymore, just burn him. Mengwei turned around and allowed the Skyfire Dragon to transform into its dragon form and engulf the totem stone statue directly. Even though the totem stone statue has lost all faith, it cannot be easily refined by the Skyfire Dragon. However, the matter is settled, it is nothing more than a matter of time. The Holy Demon Star is unified, now it's time for us to get out of the Holy Demon Star. Mengwei looked around at the crowd and said, as I said with the stone statue, when you enter the immortal world, you must follow the immortal way. The human immortal world is the human race's fairy world, so naturally we must follow the human race's rules. But the demons are still our kindred. So, be polite first, then fight. If there is resistance, then, shoot without mercy. After saying that, Mengwei threw the magic knife in his hand behind him. That is the endless sea of holy demons. It seems calm, but in fact there is an undercurrent. When the magic knife takes action, it quickly grows in size. When it fell into the water, it suddenly became like a sea-fixing needle, with the blade facing down and the handle facing up. The sea surface just stopped on the side of the knife handle, and the sea and sky were the same color, with the knife handle as the boundary. The yin and yang chaotic circles above also enlarged at the same time. The black dots and white circles began to flow slowly. In all directions, the stars are also rotating. Gradually, it presented a gray-white color, with the handle of the knife as the center, and diffused a mysterious aura of immortal power. If Zuyun were here, he would definitely recognize that this is the purest chaos power. Go. Meng Wei waved his hand, and all the Holy Demon Clan members retreated, leaving only Mo Hemming alone. Demon Lord, if we are polite first and then attack, we are afraid that we will encounter resistance from many demons. Ma Hemming understands the situation in Chaotic Star Sea better than Meng Wei. Although, the Holy Demon Star is only completely unified today. But before that, he often went out to inquire about some rumors. It doesn't matter, Meng Wei said calmly, those who follow me will prosper, and those who go against me will perish. Why? Ma Hemming sighed and said, Demon Lord, you can actually tell them that they can enter Zuyun's world to thrive. Why don't you tell them directly? Presumably, there will be more demons in this way. If we become compliant, the chaotic star sea can be unified sooner. You don't understand, Meng Wei glanced at Mo Hemming, then turned to look at the magic knife in the sea, and said, it is easy to enter Zuyun's world, but the problem is, their strength will be limited. I'm afraid it's because we have weird ideas. Therefore, we need to conquer them directly. The demon clan values strength first. As long as we defeat them, we won't have any worries. Demon Lord, Zuyun's world is indeed mysterious, but can it really accommodate so many demons? Mo Hemming walked around Zuyun's universe world, and he did feel a lot of demonic energy. Even among these demonic energies, he also discovered demons originating from outside the territory. It was equivalent to the demon in their demon world, but it was more violent than the demon in the fairy world. If we enter Zuyun's world, everything will be fine, but we are afraid that the demons will dance wildly, and then the Holy Demon Clan will have the opposite effect, and they will definitely bear the brunt and be targeted by all the Demon Clan. On the contrary, there will be a danger of annihilation. Meng Wei naturally guessed Mo Hemming's worries. She smiled and said, you don't know, the universe world is definitely more than that. Demon Lord, please clarify. When Ma Hemming heard this, he knew that Meng Wei still had something to say. No need to express it, I can only tell you that the world of Ming Amozun and Zuyun was initially just an ordinary secret realm of nothingness. But now, it can accommodate hundreds of rivers, and all kinds of power can exist in that world. In this world, how much do you know about the changes? What the Demon Lord means is. Mo Hemming's eyes gradually lit up. It's not interesting, Meng Wei suddenly chuckled, turned to look at the yin and yang chaotic circle, and said calmly, you just need to do it, and you will naturally know when you enter it. Zuyun, it's a destiny, and it's a destiny that has already stood up. Mo Hemming bowed and retreated. He was completely sure. Meng Wei's decision was not wrong. If they, the Holy Demon Clan, want to truly survive and thrive in the fairy world, Zuyun is their only hope. But they didn't know it. Not only Zuyun we encountered changes, but also Chaos Zingai. We are also experiencing disaster. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1852. I've never heard of the whale-devouring demons. Zhu Feng listened to the gnashing roar of the demon in front of him, stretched out his hand, and a blood hole appeared between his eyebrows. You haven't heard of it, but I have. Is it possible that others lied to me for no reason? After speaking indifferently to the corpse, Zhu Feng raised his hand, and the corpse suddenly disappeared from the place and entered his world of 3 talents. 306 Zuyun looked up and saw a desert in front of him. This was the 10th demon world star he had set foot on after entering the Chaos Star Sea. The number in his mouth was the number he had killed. Demonic people. But without exception, no one has ever heard of the whale-devouring demon clan. This made Zhu Feng feel a little irritable. Did I hear it wrong at that time? But as an immortal, how could I hear it wrong? Smiling self-deprecatingly, Zhu Feng shook his head and disappeared from the spot. According to past experience, there will definitely be demons coming here. Whenever he can no longer stay in a demon world star, he will change places. In the world of Sankei, Zhu Feng appeared in front of the demon refining tower. Here, there are already 10 demon corpses piled up. The bodies were obviously all of the same race. Open! Zhu Feng shouted in a low voice, and the bronze door opened naturally, and then 10 corpses automatically flew into the demon refining tower without any wind. The demon refining tower is still the demon refining tower, but it is still the pillar of strength in this world of 3 talents. It's just that Zhu Feng didn't bring the demon refining tower with him as a sword. Zhu Feng, your murderous intent is a bit strong. As soon as he entered the tower, a Niao's voice rang out. I have no choice but to rely on you. Zhu Feng raised his head and smiled. Why? A Niao sighed and said, originally, you only absorbed the flesh and blood essence of humans and demons, and you didn't feel anything. But now that you have absorbed the power contained in the corpses of demons one after another, you are gradually affected. I know, Zhu Feng said without denying it, so I need your help to suppress that demonic energy. But if I can't find the whale-devouring demon clan, I may not be able to solve the current problem. In addition, there is no news about Shimogong now. In the fairy world, all the demonic skills in the world are derived from changes in the demonic skills. And since there are corresponding demonic powers, there will naturally be corresponding demon clans. If Zhu Feng can't find the magic power, he will never be able to solve the disadvantages caused by swallowing the magic power. This disadvantage is not obvious in the lower realm. But when he became an immortal, he had to need help from a Niao. A Niao had helped him before. But the current problem is more obvious. However, the benefits are also obvious. Zhu Feng had already vaguely touched the bottleneck of immortal Luo Tian. But this is not necessarily a good thing, maybe. When he breaks through Luo Tianxian, he will become a demon. When the time comes, become a demon. A Niao sighed again, and combined the 9 levels of spiritual power in the tower into one, turning it into a mysterious fairy power, protecting the soul of Zhu Feng. Then, Zhu Feng also used the demon devouring technique and began to devour the flesh and blood essence of the 10 demons one by one. Zhu Xian, where are we heading? South this way. After traveling in the fairy world for a long time, Fairy Xianxia couldn't bear it anymore. Along the way, not to mention the immortal Luo Tian, I didn't even meet an evil immortal. Zuyun was happy to be quiet. In fact, when passing through some fairyland, he also used the divine eye technique to look at it, and he could indeed find that the gathering of evil immortals in these fairyland was far beyond the ordinary immortals. And he could even see that ordinary immortals were enslaved by immortal evil. Upon hearing Fairy Xianxia's question, Zuyun turned his head slightly and said, Xianxia, have you ever encountered an evil fairy in the Western immortal realm? Fairy Xianxia was stunned for a moment, then shook her head and said, no, but I was enslaved by the immortals belonging to the immortal emperor's mansion in the west for a long time. I finally escaped and just met you. Fairy Xianxia said quickly. Zuyun raised his eyebrows and said, then have you ever taken Yan Hunsen? Yan Hunsen? What is that? Fairy Xianxia was stunned, and Zuyun immediately realized that after taking Fairy Xianxia for so long, he didn't see any signs of an attack. He smiled and said, it's nothing, it's just a method used by the Western immortal realm to control people. It's okay if you haven't taken it. Zhu Xian, I have heard that there are some immortals who have been enslaved for a long time. Maybe I was lucky and was not selected. This unintentional explanation made Zuyun suddenly remember that the reason why he was arrested for mining at that time was because the Western immortal realm sent people to the Southern immortal realm. He touched his chin and secretly wondered, did Ximen Yuanqing have an ulterior motive? As soon as Fairy Xianxia ascended, she appeared in the Western immortal realm, and she could be regarded as a local immortal in the Western immortal realm. It seems that you can only know if you become the immortal emperor. It's a pity that Xiaobei is dead, otherwise you can still ask her. Suddenly, Zuyun lost interest and continued to move forward with Fairy Xianxia. After walking for more than a day, he felt an extremely huge evil energy lingering in the void. What a terrifying evil spirit! Where is this? Zuyun couldn't help but stop, and used the divine eye technique to look in the direction where the evil energy was coming from. Southern Immortal Emperor Realm. With just one glance, he saw the source of the evil energy, which turned out to be an extremely extraordinary fairyland. Zuyun felt something different from it. This seemed to be a level higher than all the fairylands he had seen. Suddenly, Zuyun found that a pair of eyes noticed his divine eyes technique and quickly followed his sight. There seemed to be an inexplicable evil energy in it, pointing directly at his eyes. Zuyun took a few steps back, withdrew the divine eyes technique at the same time, and closed his eyes tightly. In his body, the chaotic fairy power continued to flow. And in the purple mansion, thousands of stars suddenly accelerated their speed. That was his fairyland. This evil energy was too strong, and Zuyun's own strength was not enough to resist it. So he had to draw the chaotic fairy power in the glazed fairyland for his own use. Zhu Xian, what's wrong with you? Fairy Xianxia had no idea what was going on, and she was also wondering, this evil energy, could it be so strong? No, although she felt uncomfortable all over, it was not like this. Zuyun took a deep breath and slowly uttered two words, Immortal Lord. What, Immortal Lord? Fairy Xianxia's face changed drastically, and she covered her mouth in fear. Zuyun took two more steps back and waved his hand to create a space-time crack in front of him. Xianxia, go back to where you came from, quickly. It was difficult for him to deal with it. If Xianxia stayed here, it would be equivalent to death. But as soon as the voice fell, Fairy Xianxia exploded into a ball of blood mist. Then, an evil figure stood in front of Zuyun. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1853. You took away my father's cosmic glass mirror. Seeing the immortal lord in front of him, Zuyun couldn't help but change his expression. Are you Nangong Tianli's son? That's right, the young emperor chuckled and said, I am the young immortal emperor of the southern immortal realm today, and most people call me the young emperor. Of course, if I can get back the universe glazed mirror, I can sit on the throne of the immortal emperor and get everyone acknowledges it. So, if you give me the immortal mirror, I can keep your body intact. When talking about Zuyun's life and death, the young emperor seemed to be talking about an extremely common thing, and he also meant something. The so-called leaving a whole body naturally refers to Fairy Xianxia who died before Zuyun. The glazed mirror of the universe is gone. Zuyun shook his head, but secretly clasped the Chaos Emperor chain in his hand. If the young emperor was just an immortal lord, he would naturally not be worried. But he kept using the divine eye technique and saw clearly that hidden in the darkness, several extremely powerful laws were circulating, and they also contained evil spirits. Obviously, there are several immortal lords. When did the southern immortal realm have so many immortal lords? Do you know why I am waiting here for you? The young emperor was not a little angry because of Zuyun's words. Instead, he continued to ask Zuyun with an evil smile. Why? Zuyun frowned. Because you have used the universe glazed mirror. My father's bloodline is on the universe glazed mirror, and I am the one with the purest blood among his descendants. Therefore, when you came to the southern immortal realm, you used the immortal mirror's bloodline. At that time, I felt it. If I guessed correctly, you used the cosmic glass mirror to kill Tunchen, right? These words seemed plain, but they caused an uproar in Zuyun's heart. Of course, it doesn't mean that the young emperor can feel his glazed fairy mirror. But the blood he carries. Nangong Tianli's identity can be said to be the blood of nightmares, extraterrestrial demons, monsters, and humans. The young emperor claims that his bloodline is the purest, and he has reached the realm of the immortal king. This shows that this guy is not that easy to deal with. It's no wonder that there are so many immortal lords hiding in the dark behind him. But, let's talk about it the other way around. If I can control the young emperor, it seems that I can resolve this crisis. It's a pity that he has no chance to save fairy Xianxia. Zuyun shook his head secretly, but Jiang looked at the young emperor calmly and said, "Are you sure that I will hand the universe glazed mirror into your hands?" "The mirror is on you," the young emperor said, still smiling. "If you don't give it, I can blow you up into a ball of blood mist. And the fairy mirror remains." "You are wrong." Zuyun smiled contemptuously and waved his hand towards the young emperor. In an instant, the Chaos Emperor chain came out of his hand, and the next moment, it bound the young emperor tightly. But the situation did not improve. When his chaotic immortal power emerged, evil energy at the level of 5 immortal lords came with pressure and surged towards Zuyun. But Zuyun's speed was really too fast, and he struck first, and the young emperor was right in front of him. He stretched out his hand like a claw, grabbed the young emperor's neck directly, and shouted sternly, "If I feel a trace of evil again, don't blame me for killing him." Suddenly, all the evil spirits disappeared without a trace, but then, 5 figures emerged from the void. The young emperor's smile finally disappeared. Instead, he was extremely surprised. "Boy, not only did you know that I have men lurking here, but you also dared to restrain me. You are extraordinary. You don't need to prove whether I am ordinary or not," Zuyun sneered. "If you want to survive, let your men retreat, otherwise, you will die without a complete body." The young emperor was not afraid at all, but asked, "Can I understand that no matter whether they retreat or not, I will die?" "I can let you live." Zuyun knew that there was a mistake in his words, but it was a mistake, so he quickly changed his words. "I was just passing by here, and I didn't want to be an enemy of your southern fairyland. Although we are not enemies at this time, we will be enemies one day." The young emperor suddenly laughed loudly and said, "If I die, the Nangong family can still support a young emperor. We evil immortals only need to get the cosmic glazed mirror." Hearing this, Zuyun's face suddenly changed. At the same time, he also saw the 5 immortal kings, slowly releasing the evil pressure and rushing towards Zuyun. But then, an idea flashed in Zuyun's mind: this young emperor is trying to trick me. Immediately, he was rude and slapped him hard on the face with the power of chaos. "Young emperor, your father doesn't have such backbone as you. You must have inherited the most bloodline, so you don't have such backbone, right?" This slap left 5 bright red palm prints on the young emperor's face, and the young emperor finally lost his indifferent expression. And the 5 immortal lords also suddenly took back their respective pressures. The young emperor's eyes were ruthless and full of resentment. "How did you see that?" "I almost got deceived by you," Zuyun said with a sneer. "I have dealt with your father a lot, and I naturally know that you descendants of nightmares are the most cunning, and also like to do the opposite. I also know that you extremely afraid of death. Originally, I couldn't remember it. After all, there are 6 of you." "New." Zuyun did not hide anything and expressed his conjecture. The faces of the 5 immortals turned red and white. The young emperor's face was naturally even uglier. He originally wanted to design a plan to let the 5 immortals restrain Zhu Yun. But he didn't expect that this Luo Tian Xianxia had such a skill. I overlooked it. Since you can survive from my father and take the universe glass mirror, it means that you are very smart. The young emperor regained his original expression and said, but it's not easy for you to kill me. After all, the emperor chain can protect people. Ordinary emperor chains can indeed be used, Zhu Yun chuckled, but mine is not an ordinary emperor chain. If you forget the pain of the slap just now, I can let you recall it. After that, Zhu Yun slapped the other side of the young emperor's face again. Boy, do you want to die? The young emperor was teased and humiliated by Zhu Yun, and he wanted to order the 5 immortals to kill Zhu Yun. But when he thought that Zhu Yun would drag him along even if he died, he could not help but swallow his breath again. His chest rose and fell violently, and he said in a deep voice, Boy, what do you want? I can promise you. Zhu Yun glanced at him indifferently and sneered, if I want to be the immortal emperor, would you dare to agree? Immortal emperor, it's not impossible, the young emperor narrowed his eyes and said, after all, the universe glass mirror is in your hands. It's just. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1854. Just what? Zhu Yun couldn't even look down on the immortal lord, so naturally he couldn't be the immortal emperor of the southern immortal realm. He just wanted to talk to the young emperor. Previously, it was a game between two people over words, some of which were true and some of which were false. Zhu Yun can tell some of them. He is not the only one who has Nangong Tianli's descendants. Moreover, the meaning of the cosmic glazed mirror to these evil immortals is not that simple. But the problem is, in the glazed mirror of the universe, whether it is the immortal palace or the world of the universe, they are all for their own use. Even the immortal mansion was connected to the great universe world, and finally the glazed immortal world was formed. However, to become an immortal emperor, in addition to being a cosmic glazed mirror, you also need to be an evil immortal. Otherwise, no one will admit it. I can teach you the inherited evil method from our Nangong family, and you can start from now on. After practicing, you will be able to completely transform your immortal power in a month at most, and have the opportunity to achieve the realm of the immortal lord. Is it that easy for you evil immortals to cultivate to the level of immortal lord? Zhu Yun raised his head and looked at the 5 immortal monarchs lined up. He was indeed surprised. He seems to have seen very few immortal kings face to face. But here, together with the young emperor, there are 6 immortal lords. He thought that the chaotic southern fairyland was nothing to worry about, but the result surprised him. You know, the Chinese immortal domain that he considers to be the most difficult to invade only has 3 immortal lords. Just one Qiu Linjian gave him a huge headache. Not to mention Ye Yang and Lord Fenjiun Thunder. My practice is to go against heaven. What method we practice is not important. What is important is how to quickly conquer the heaven and earth and realize the supreme way. Although the immortals have endless lifespan, they have never seen them for so many years. Someone has attained the path to the immortal world. Naturally, we want to take the wrong path. People in the world often think that we evil immortals are cultivating to advance quickly, but this young emperor can only say, they are short-sighted. Zhu Yun was also stunned when he heard such words. Yes, the immortal kings he met were, not to mention others, the 5 elements Xianxian and Ximen Yuanqing. They had practiced hard for many years and could never master the method again, so they ordered the 5 elements Xianxian to lay out the lower world and pass down the 5 elements Chaos Sutra allows those monks with 5 spiritual roots to ascend to the fairy world and finally be used by him. Ximen Yuanqing has made up his mind to find the source of origin in the chaos. Isn't it to gather the resources of the entire fairy world for his own use? Thinking of this, Zuyun suddenly understood the problem that fairy Xianxia mentioned before. Ximen Yuanqing would not overly enslave the immortals in his own domain. But for the immortals in the outer realm, they would not hold back. Not only did they squeeze them hard, but they also used Yanhan powder to control them. It's because the immortal emperor can control the power of the entire domain for his own use. Just bring the corresponding immortal realm jade seal. However, this immortal seal is of great importance and must not be lost, and it can only be used in this domain. However, evil immortals are against the path of immortality, so the immortal seal is of little use. Nangang Tianli found a way to refine the immortal artifact of the universe glazed mirror, and he must have had the idea of using the immortal mirror as an immortal seal. But later, before the fairy mirror was fully formed, it was smashed by Yayong. He frowned. Yayong. Do you know anything? Is the current Chinese immortal realm related to Nangang Tianli at that time? Zuyun's head aches when he thinks of all these entangled things. If we want to solve these problems, it seems that we can only find out if we find Yayong and ask him face to face. Ask others. Who knows? Nangang Tianli is already a dead man. The immortal soul has long since dissipated and is no longer in the immortal world. And hearing what the young emperor said, maybe the evil immortal is really looking for a higher way. Yes, immortals have unlimited longevity and have a worry-free life. Even though there are days when I am unwilling to live like this and want to reach the immortal world, I have never heard of anyone who can ascend to the immortal world. Anyone? No one. Only after he entered the immortal world, he heard all kinds of news and came into contact with many immortal kings, all of whom were doing special things. Isn't it for ascending to the upper world, or for what? Thinking of this, Zuyun couldn't help but sigh. Boy, do you understand us evil immortals? When the young emperor saw Zuyun's expression, he couldn't help but ask. I understand, but it doesn't mean that I agree with your approach. Zuyun put away his thoughts and remembered his conversation with Bei Minjian. Good guy? Bad guy? Why do we need your approval? The young emperor also shook his head and said, we have different ways and we don't want to conspire against each other. Since you are passing through this place and have no intention of becoming our southern immortal emperor. Zuyun interrupted him unceremoniously and said, the cosmic glazed mirror is gone. Even if you ask me to become the immortal emperor, I can't take it out. Impossible, the young emperor said in a more serious tone, I can clearly feel the remnants of my father's blood in you. That's not the cosmic glazed mirror anymore. Zuyun raised his head and looked at the 5 immortal monarchs in the distance, then returned his gaze and put it close to the young emperor's ear, saying softly, that's the glazed mirror, and the universe has nothing to do with it. The words fell. Zuyun's hand that was pinching the young emperor's neck suddenly transcended the laws of time and space. At the same time, chaos immortal power surged out of his body. Even though his realm is not as good as that of the young emperor in the realm of immortal lord. But under the chaos emperor chain, he was unable to resist, and the chaos immortal power could be said to be the highest immortal power in this immortal world. In this way, the young emperor's neck was directly strangled. The laws of time and space also instantly twisted the young emperor's immortal soul into dust. There are no real bones left. Young emperor. The 5 immortal emperors shouted in unison. They did not expect that Zuyun would dare to take action in such a situation. This is too. Will they die together? As a Lucian immortal, how confident could he be that he could escape the encirclement of the 5 immortal lords? Accompanied by the roar of the 5 as one, the 5 immortal lords rushed in unison. Before anyone arrived, the pressure came first. But Zuyun didn't seem to notice it at all. Instead, he slowly put away his Chaos Emperor chain and put it back on his wrist. Until, When the pressure was approaching and he was about to crush Zuyun into dust, an extremely huge real dragon suddenly appeared in front of him, meandering 3,000 miles. But in less than a breath, it formed a dragon body wall. Boom! The magic and coercion of the 5 immortal lords came crashing down. The immortal realm shook and the space twisted. Several nearby world stars also collapsed suddenly, turned into powder, and finally turned into dust in the void of the fairy world. Real dragon. Dragon King. When the huge dragon head lowered, Sharen's dragon eyes stared at the 5 immortal kings. At the same time, 5 claws appeared on the 4 limbs from the gap in the dragon wall, and they screamed. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1855. I didn't expect that you evil immortals can actually recognize me. The Dragon King said indifferently. Dragon King, do you want to interfere in our human race's affairs? An immortal lord took a step forward and spoke loudly to the Dragon King. The Dragon King shook his huge head, still indifferent. We divine beasts don't care about the affairs of the human race, but you can't touch this person. Why? Are you beasts going back on your word and breaking the rules of the immortal world? Another immortal lord said loudly. No, the Dragon King glanced at Zuyun and said, the person he killed earlier had the blood of the demon clan. Due to emotions and reasons, he should have helped our dragon clan, and our dragon clan owes him a favor. What did you say? All the immortal kings were stunned. They are evil spirits. But he never said he had an affair with the demons. Even if there is, I dare not say anything openly, otherwise the true dragon clan will definitely attack. It's just true that they didn't know that the young emperor had demon blood. You evil immortals, heh. Zuyun also smiled sarcastically at this time. Boy, what do you mean? Several immortal kings glared at Zuyun. The Dragon King came in person, and these 2 short sentences protected Zuyun. They knew there was nothing they could do against Zuyun. I wonder if you have ever heard of the nightmare. Zuyun put away his smile, thinking that there might be a hidden meaning in this. Evil fairy. Maybe he was also deceived by Nangang Tianli. I remembered what the young emperor said earlier, that they just took another path to achieve the immortal world. It's just that this path is not pleasing to the human race. Excusable. But Zuyun would not agree with them. Those who deserve to be killed still want to kill. But if that day comes, it still depends on the evil methods these people practice. If he were to use people to make elixirs like the 5 elements immortal, that would be an unpardonable crime. Nightmare. The faces of the 5 immortal lords all changed. Obviously, I have heard of the name Nightmare. As long as you are a descendant of Nangang Tianli, you must have the blood of Nightmare. Looking at your expressions, it is obvious that you also know how powerful Nightmare is. As Zuyun spoke, he also had an idea in his mind, which might be helpful for his next plan, so he continued, because Nangang Tianli himself is a nightmare. Don't you want to know where the cosmic glazed mirror is? In order to make these 5 immortal kings believe in him, Zuyun took out the glazed fairy mirror from his chest. This was originally an immortal and demonic weapon. After I got it, I destroyed the demonic energy on it and turned it into a pure immortal weapon. But what I didn't expect was that the young emperor could actually smell it. The breath. After hearing Zuyun's words, the 5 immortal lords hesitated and said to the Dragon King, Dragon King, since this son is your guest, we will not hurt him. But we need to verify what he said. Can. The Dragon King nodded, and the 5 immortal lords poured out their own immortal knowledge. The reason why they told Longwu in advance was actually because they were afraid that the Dragon King would misunderstand. Zuyun is also generous and generous, which does not mean that he is not vigilant. Whenever there is a hint of murderous intention among them, Zuyun will escape back to his fairy land without hesitation. As for the Dragon King? To be honest, he didn't care at all. After all, the Dragon King showed up to ask for something from him. Zuyun also accidentally discovered the appearance of the Dragon King, so he felt confident and put on a good show. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to kill the young emperor here, and at most he would take him into his own glazed fairy world. 5 immortal consciousnesses surged on the glazed fairy mirror. After half a cup of tea, he took it all back. I don't feel the devilish energy, but I am sure that this is the cosmic glazed mirror that Nangang Tianli used to own. Yes, the front is the universe, and it is for the laws of time. Anyway, it is the universe, and it is for the laws of space. Another immortal lord nodded in agreement. Several immortal lords expressed their opinions, but Zuyun was once again reminded of the questions he had thought of before in the words of the second immortal lord. The universe is time and the universe is space. This is the consensus among the immortal world, even the immortal monarchs are no exception, including the 5 immortal monarchs in front of them. But he discovered a problem in the process of integrating the fairy mirror and creating the world of colored glaze. You is not time. The universe is not space. These two are interchangeable. Before, because of Lin Zhenghong's unintentional remarks, Zuyun didn't pay much attention to the name, so he gradually let go of the issue. At this time, I heard one of the evil immortal lords talk about it again, and my previous guesses came to mind again. The laws of time and space, abbreviated as the exchange, is someone doing it intentionally. Immortal lords who only practice one law have also seen it, such as the space law of the formation immortal, and the time law of the immortal Lian Zhen. But to this day, no one has ever mastered these two laws at the same time. The laws of time and space, no one can understand. Zuyun took a deep breath. Now that he was in this state, when he thought about this issue again, he discovered even more doubts here. But in the current situation, there is no time to think about it. My friend, the 5 immortals seem to have confirmed the facts. One of them bowed to Zuyun and said, "Those who are not of our race must have different hearts." In these years, we did not know that the immortal emperor, or the young emperor, actually had the blood of the nightmare demon. We, the human race, were actually used. This is a great shame. The words were full of apologies. Zuyun narrowed his eyes and heard another immortal king say, "Since the Dragon King also approves this matter, it means that the Nangang people are all descendants of the nightmare demon. Although we don't have an immortal emperor in the southern immortal realm, such matters can definitely be responded to by one call. Yes, we bid farewell. We need to solve the issue of the nightmare demon in the southern immortal realm." Just as they were about to leave, Zuyun said, "Wait." Everyone stopped, turned around, and looked at Zuyun with some confusion. They thought Zuyun would let it go, and they were a little angry in their hearts. We put our attitude so low, and it was all for the face of the Dragon King. Otherwise, just because you humiliated us, even if you told us such an important thing today, I will kill you first to vent my anger. Zuyun seemed to be completely unaware of their expressions at this time, but said calmly, "I heard that the evil immortals also colluded with the outer demons. Is this true?" As soon as these words came out, the 5 immortals changed their faces. Zuyun sneered, "Do you really think I know everything? My friend, don't know too much about some things. The word collusion is not appropriate. If collusion fails, do you use cooperation?" Zuyun was not polite and shouted coldly, "What happened before, I can blame the people of the Nangang clan. But next, your cooperation with the outer demons is tantamount to seeking the skin of a tiger. You, still need to take care of yourself." After that, Zuyun patted the Dragon King's body and said lightly, "Dragon King, take me to visit your ancestral land."